Virgin Islands. This is Emma Hansen, your Democratic delegate candidate. Got stuck in my head there for a minute. As promised, as promised, I'm here today to tell you what my legislative agenda is. The reason why I call it that rather than a platform, as I explained with Ferdell yesterday, that a platform is simply a means of agreeing with the wishes of the people. They don't like WAPA, so you put it on your platform. I don't like WAPA either. They don't like the hospital. Yeah, we got to do something about the hospital. The failure in that is that you are not saying what it is that you're going to do to solve the problem. I hope you see that clearly. We cannot go ahead and solve any problems with just a platform. You have to do something about it. Now then, as I call myself a veteran legislator, I have 6 bills, congressional bills, that are ready to go immediately once I'm sworn in. And before I do anything else, I want to acknowledge two Virgin Islanders, two Crucians that we've lost recently. Mr. Richard Schroeder and my first friend, Pete Encarnacion. Pete, I'm gonna miss you, buddy. I really am. Got a little choked up there, but that's okay. Let's soldier on. I just had to pay witness to knowing these two great men and being fortunate enough to call them friend. Number one, the Duty, Equity, and Fair Customs Treatment Act of 2027. What this does, it eliminates duplicative custom duties affecting the Virgin Islands. We all have bought something, it comes over, even though it's coming from America to America, we get charged. We still get charged another duty. It's not right. It modernizes the territorial customs treatment, which is just what I just said. Also, and most importantly, it reduces the cost. And that's what we need to have happen. We need the cost to be reduced. Two, Distilled Spirits Revenue Protection and Economic Stability Act. What this is on more simple terms, it expands the rum cover over. As we know, Diageo, when it makes Captain Morgan and other rums, Crucian rum, again rum, but it makes little to no sense to me to have it limited to rum. We have Mutiny, which is doing fantastic. I understand Prosperity is also bottling, and the thing is that we have to take advantage of this. You cook when the stove is hot. We should not ignore the benefits of expanding the rum cover over just to change it to distilled spirits. So what this does, it expands the federal cover over protections beyond rum to all distilled spirits. It encourages economic diversification and manufacturing growth. It also stabilizes long-term territorial revenue. So, as you can see, with these first 2 bills, it's about the economy. It's about being able to not have to pay more to get an American product here. And it expands our growing distillery. Just imagine if we can make that happen and we can actually have distillery tours. The Territorial Medicare and Social Security Equity Act. It advances Medicare parity for territorial residents. It expands prescription drug access. You know, with the Medicare Part C, it's very limiting in what medications that they pay for. Yet, we pay the same amount of money for Medicare and we pay the same amount of money for Social Security, but we get the short end of the stick. So basically, we are subsidizing those two things in the States. It's not right. Give me a second here. All this talking is making my throat dry. So it addresses healthcare, infrastructure, tax, and disaster. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the other one. It improves the Social Security Administration equity. We know we're not treated right. We don't get SSI because you live in a territory. But if you move to Florida, like so many of our elders do to get better health care, this is part of it. This is something that they paid into their whole life. But they're saying, yeah, you might pay for the whole chicken, but you get no wing. It's not right. The next one is the United States Territorial Economic Fairness and Parity Act. So, as I've said before, we now have a territorial caucus, and there are going to be areas where we bisect for our own benefit. Now, let's take something like solar power. We know over in Asia, they use this a lot. But if we could get it from the Philippines, not the Philippines, but the Mariana Islands from Guam and such, who are on that side of the world, and because we won't have the customs, and because it's America to America, we could probably have solar power on every roof, on every roof, and that's what we're looking for, to work with our partners, the other territories who go through what we go through. The other one, let's see. Oh, and it establishes territorial parity as official federal policy. The reason that's important is because we are outside of official federal policy. You go back to Social Security. It's in the law that you can get SSI, but then they say, yeah, we just don't want you to have it. And there's no reason. They are actually going against their own laws and policies to keep us out. You see? So now, it requires a federal review of all inequalities affecting territories. So this is us saying, you've been doing this to us for over 100 years. Review your own policy and make it right. Finally, addresses healthcare, infrastructure, tax, and disaster funding disparities. So we are asking through this legislation, this particular one, to be brought and made whole, to come to the table and make us whole. We no longer want to be the red-headed stepchild, in other words. And this has been done before. It used to be women couldn't vote, black people couldn't vote, Mexicans couldn't vote. If you weren't, white bread America, you are locked out of those things. These things have been changed. But as you can see, this is a package deal. The other one is one of my favorites. Caribbean Territorial Partnership and Development Act to strengthen coordination between the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, creates regional cooperation on healthcare, transportation, emergency response, tourism, and workforce development. This is basically just working closer with our neighbors. If you want to buy something, it's right there in Puerto Rico. So we have to go ahead and we have to codify this. We want to codify this so that we don't get into a spot where they say, well, you can't do it because you didn't check with me. It's America to America. So we shouldn't have to try that hard to share resources with Puerto Rico, to buy products in Puerto Rico and get them over here, And I can tell you for a fact that when I was state chair and national committee man, the longest standing state chair at the time was a gentleman by the name of Roberto Prats. He's an attorney from Puerto Rico and one hell of a nice guy. In fact, we've been able to, even though we weren't as involved as we used to be, we are still able to maintain our friendship, which I think is just amazing. And I spoke to him up to the other day. I won't tell you what we talked about, But it's good. It's really good to have allies that are that close. The last bill is the Federal Territorial Funding Transparency and Accountability Act. And this is something that I think, in light of recent events, that we really need to look at closely. And I'm talking about the corruption where we lost a number of high ranking government officials to. Should have never happened, but there are ways to find solutions. Um, so this one establishes formal monitoring and reporting mechanisms for federal funds allocated to the Virgin Islands. It promotes transparency, accountability, and efficient deployment of federal resources. It also builds on the MOU framework between the Office of the Governor and the Office of Delegate to Congress. Together, when you look at these things, you're looking at economic fairness, federal parity, healthcare equity, government accountability, regional cooperation, and long term fiscal sustainability for the Virgin Islands. So, with all these words, what is that we're really talking about? If you look at these bills together, you have six bills that would amount to the most comprehensive territorial reform agendas ever advanced by a candidate for the delicate position. This is not play work. This ain't cutting ribbons. This ain't kissing babies. This is changing the things that keep us back, bringing down shipping costs, food costs, medicine costs, making sure that when Granny gets sick, she can use that SSI. You get hurt on a job, you can use the SSI. That's what this is about. This is about changing the framework of how we do business with the federal government by simply going to the table and saying, make me whole. Give us what it is that we deserve. You see, this is not just symbolic, it restructures the entire relationship between the VI and the federal government economically, institutionally, and strategically. That is how I come to you today to make that happen and to tell you I'm not interested in having a platform that just says, I don't like what you don't like. This is the work that is supposed to go on in Congress. You know, when we're looking at lowering the cost of living and having a stronger local economy, right? Reduce import costs, lower retail prices, lower business operating costs, which is important. Business costs go up, so does the sticker price. Increase competitiveness for local businesses, improve investor confidence. We don't have money here like that, you know. And also greater economic circulation within the territory because you got a little bit more to spend. It's costing you less, right? We have to diversify beyond tourism. We know that on St. Croix. We know that on St. Croix. I know there's a lot of people. In fact, just about everybody I know in St. Thomas has a second job related to tourism, and it helps. But over here, we're not that big a tourist destination, just as beautiful, but we're talking about traditionally. So if we can expand into the vodka, gin, and whiskey liqueurs and increase our distilleries, now people can come and have a different sort of tour to go on. Why not? Why not? We have the land to grow the fruit. Red fruit is what they use for mutiny. We can do this. We have the land. We talk about farming, farming, farming. Yes, but there must be value added to this. You see? It's not just the guy by the road stand. No, we need to go ahead and refine those products. And this is a way to do it, right? So when we have new manufacturing jobs, because we have grown this industry from the ground up, and we use agricultural development opportunities, export growth. You know, we made 7 flags. Well, yeah, 7 flags. A whole lot of money. But now we can do the same thing, and that money stays here. It doesn't go to make a foreign country richer. Increased federal revenue flowing back to the Virgin Islands and long-term fiscal stabilization. This is something that we have talked about in many forms, in many ways, on different forums, and we've done it for decades about stabilizing what we do. Just the other day, we had an issue with GRS, which is tied to a revenue stream. But we need more homegrown revenue streams where the money stays here. I hope you hear me on that one. The other one is federal, and I'm just repeating this stuff so you get a full sense of what we're doing here. Federal healthcare equity. Dr. Heath had a beautiful, I can't remember at the moment the name of the place, but because we were so funded on such a low level, I think it was Skyview, I believe. Dr. Heath's an incredible man. I enjoy him a lot. But the thing is that if we're not getting those Medicare and Medicaid dollars and the SSI, that is why a big part of the reason why our hospitals are failing. It's not that the people are doing anything wrong per se, it's that the financial structure that supports hospitals we don't have. This will not solve all of the problems, but you got to believe me when I tell you that it's a huge help. And if we can go ahead and have better healthcare funding, expanded prescription drug access, improve elder care, reduced medical migration to the mainland, you know, excuse me, anybody gets sick, they on a plane. I don't blame you, but we can make it better. Increase healthcare provider participation, greater financial security for seniors. Our seniors should be able to really enjoy their elder years and not have to worry about the decision between buying food or buying medicine, pay my whopper bill or buying medicine. Oh God, food gone up. It's sad. It's sad to watch. And with the institutional federal parity, you force the federal government to formally measure inequities. You see, we get a chance to say, look at what you're doing, right? It creates federal accountability mechanisms, which means that they now have to come to the table and be honest about what they're doing, right? Institutionalized territorial impact reviews. I'll bring up this one thing. I said it, I think, twice. I'll say it again. When Governor Bryan says that we don't have enough federal money to fix the roads, I agree with him. But that's not a solution to say we don't have enough money. You have to be able to look at it, and I'll talk about that in a second in terms of 2 MOUs that I have drafted to be signed by me when I win, with your support, of course, and by the next governor of the Virgin Islands. And it builds a documented legal and policy record for future reforms. We won't be, we get to sit down, we look at it, and we say, you're wrong here, you're shortchanging us there. Establishes a parity as a governing principle. Now, I want you to understand what I mean by that, developing parity as a principle. If we can look at this and we can analyze and audit how we are shut out of a number of systems, then what happens is that our cry goes from help me, to you're not, we have paid into these systems and you're not giving us the right return. You are holding us back unfairly. There's no justification to say, because I live in a 008 area code, that you cannot pay me back what I paid into your systems. because we don't pay any less, but we certainly do get less. So I'm going to now discuss the MOUs. And then when I finish with that, please give me a call, 773-0390, 773-0490. These are very quick. One is dealing with something that everybody complains about, which is the state of the roads. Um, I looked at the best road on St. Croix, which is actually the bypass. And I'm going to speak with Mr. Wendy um, Nielsen, Aloy Wendy Nielsen. I did some research and discovered that he had the Army Corps of Engineers to go ahead and the engineer. Have you noticed water does not settle on the bypass? There are no potholes on the bypass. It is beautifully designed. I have authored an MOU between the office of the delegate and the incoming governor to petition the Army Corps of Engineers to take a look at our roadway system throughout the entire Virgin Islands and to provide us with the engineering that is needed to keep the runoff off of the roads, because we all know that is what really destroys the roads, the runoff. It comes off the local roads onto the major thoroughfares, and it sits and sits and it destroys the road. Now, here's a funny thing, that when I was in the local Senate, I provided from the property taxes that there would be lock boxes in each district for local roads, street lights, potable water, right? Now, if we can use that fund to do the drainage and whatnot that's needed on the local roads, when it gets to the federal roads, which are our major roads, then it ties into a system that takes the water away, under, but away from the road. You see, if you do good work, it's always valid. In fact, one of the senators recently went ahead and pulled a couple $1 million out of that lockbox fund that I created to pay for the street lights. You see? So that's what I want us to do. I want that to be a permanent solution, so we don't have to spend all our spare money buying tires and repairing your front end and your shocks and your struts. Okay. The second MOU is to have, and you heard part of it here, the second MOU is for the delegate's office to become more involved with hands-on business here in the islands. Specifically, I'm talking about federal funds. We all know what happened. There has to be a working relationship between the person who's responsible in Congress for shepherding that money and how it is actually being utilized or not being utilized in a local government. We can't continue to have this invisible wall that the delegate and the governor don't work together. That is killing us. And I will tell you today, I vow to work with whomever you elect. I have my preference, but it'll stay mine at this moment. Whomever it is, we will hold one head for the people of the Virgin Islands. And I promise you will not hear the bickering about who did this and who did that and who get credit. It's not about credit. It's about fixing the issues and establishing a better Virgin Islands. So now I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines and let's have a discussion. 773-0390, 773-0490. I know this is a whole lot more than you thought you were going to get this morning, but it takes big things to make big things happen. And again, this is not a platform. This is my legislative agenda, which I put together, and it's ready to go. It's ready to go the minute I'm sworn in, again, with your help. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it. And I will have all six of these bills on my Facebook page and on my webpage, which will be published a little bit later this week. What's today? Wednesday? By Friday, that should be up, I hope. And so this is what you can expect from me. The fact is that you have to be ready because everyone else in Congress, in the House, will be putting their bills in right away, and you don't want to be left behind. So I want to go back and tell you why this is really different. This is different because most of the agendas, they deal with individual grants. Oh, there's a grant available. Disaster funding. Well, we're sick of that, right? Or symbolic resolutions. This doesn't do any of that. What this does is focus on structural economic reform. Structural economic reform to be able to expand the money that we generate here annually to build industries. And we need federal parity. I will keep saying that. I'll keep saying that until we get to any federal program that is anywhere else. We need it too because we are Americans. And it's not right for us to be denied access to the money that we paid into the system. It truly doesn't. It really, really doesn't. And it's time that be taken on by someone in Congress. We need to have a sitting delegate that is not afraid to say, you are shortchanging my people. We have to be able to speak up for ourselves. It provides institutional leverage. And we can use that to our benefit. We really can. And long-term territorial modernization. If we could really work with the other territories and with the other island nations in our region, it's only to everyone's benefit. It's really to all of our benefit. And I know that we can do this. I know that we can do this. But once again, I really want to hear from our audience. And the number is 773-0397. I'm sorry, 773-0390. 773-0490. So let me share with those of you who don't know of my experiences in office and out of office. So the reason why I'm here with bills ready to go is because I understand the process. I served in the legislature for 4 years, chaired the committees on housing, parks, and recreation, and that was government. What was that? That was government services or government operations. And then I chaired the committee on housing, parks, and recreation. Housing and parks had not gotten a divorce yet. And I've always been interested in how we conduct business, which is why I went to the University of Virgin Islands and took master's courses in public administration to learn how things worked and, more importantly, perhaps how they did not. So the first bill, and I said this yesterday, the first bill that I drafted was the Gun Control Act. We had a fundraiser for Central High at the rec bar, which is not there anymore. Okay, I'll get back to that story. Good morning, and how are you?
Pleasant good morning and best wishes and launching this new platform for us to interact with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I've been listening, and one thing you mentioned jumps out,
Hmm.
and that's the issue with the distilleries.
Yes.
That has been a controversial issue, and my understanding is the matter has been put on hold
Hmm.
to tables. Is that accurate by the
I'm
36th legislature?
yeah, I'm not sure. I believe you're right, but I'm not certain. But we have to stop tabling things around here. I don't like it.
I
Uh,
know we take a position, but you see, it's
exactly.
because
Wait, say
this
that
is a
again for the people in the back.
political season. They don't know where, you don't know where the silent majority stands.
Hmm.
But they're listening to the vociferous minority
Right.
and this and that, but they don't represent everybody. This is a representative democracy. We don't know,
Hmm.
but at least take a position on the matter.
And listen, I could not agree with you more. You are elected to make decisions on the behalf of the people that you represent. All this hiding and ducking, I really don't have any respect for it. I
Yeah,
don't. I don't. Because you have to make, if you're there, what you're basically being paid to do is to sift through what's brought to you, do your research, and make a decision based on that. Now, if you're going to not vote, then vote no.
right.
You see, because I've had to do that because sometimes people special order stuff to the floor. Sometimes I personally didn't believe who came to testify because they didn't know this, they didn't know that. So rather than let something so deeply flawed fly by, I vote no. And I put my opinion on the record to say I didn't get enough information to support this. Now, here's the thing that people, if you get new information, then you make a decision based on the new information, right?
Right.
Which is why we have to have multiple testifiers, some pro, some con. But you have to listen to everyone, and the one that strikes you as being the most well informed about how it will benefit the Virgin Islands, then you go that way. But they're not voting.
I know.
I'm not for that.
That's a cop out. I
It
see
is.
that as a cop out. The same thing they did with this bill sponsored by Senator Frankie Johnson
Hmm.
about having the votes manually count, having the voters on the day of election to choose the option of electronic counting of their votes or manual counting of the votes.
Hmm.
I said there's no place on this earth in which you have a dual counting system operating. It's just too much going on because you wouldn't
Yeah.
know in advance how to plan.
Right.
How would the supervisor of election know how many people are going to choose the option of counting manually?
Hmm.
So it will be depending on how many people would want to go backwards, which is, in my opinion, going backwards when we have the technology. I just recently had a discussion with somebody who is convinced
Hmm.
that manual counting is better because you can't trust machines.
You can't trust
And
machines, really.
you can't trust machines. And
Mm.
I'm like, okay, the human mind created the machine, so I guess you can't trust the human mind then. And then the other argument was, which was no argument for me, machines can malfunction. I say that's true. A car can malfunction, so because a car can malfunction, you're not going to trust driving a car.
Right.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Or I try to use an analogy. Let's say you go to the supermarket. You have a cashier.
Hmm.
You have several items in your cart. Can you choose? I don't want the cashier to use the cash register. I would prefer that she, out of these items, manually.
Well,
I can't do like that.
yeah, I'm going in the next
Verify.
line. Yes,
And so which one you want?
you know.
Which one would you choose?
Oh no, get me out of there. Get
And
me out.
I couldn't believe they came with that nonsense. Take a position.
Well,
It is sheer stupidity.
well,
They should have said no right off the bat.
yeah. Well, there's another bill that they tabled by Senator Maurice James, which was to stop this foolishness about government employees having to leave. Let me make something very clear. Elected persons are government employees as well.
Right.
They are governor, lieutenant governor, senators. Those persons elected into a position have a government employee number. Their taxes are taken out. They have to put their money in GERS. They are, by any definition of the word, a government employee.
And they made it so that they can legally double dip.
Yes, yes.
The governor can't even double dip. The governor cannot receive a retirement check after he leaves office. He or she, the governor, I'm generalizing, and at the same time get back in and work full time for the government.
Yeah. And
only the senators could do that.
And
you know, I believe that's unconstitutional.
I would think so. Because and here's my take on that. You're only protecting your job.
Exactly.
That's all you're doing. You ain't fooling nobody. Trust me, you're not fooling anybody. You're only protecting your job to make it as difficult and arduous as possible for persons to run against you. If you look at how the legislature's committees are set up, now bear in mind, each legislature gets it set up on its own. It doesn't have to follow, excuse me, it doesn't have to follow the previous legislature. So a committee may be named something here and it may be named something there. We always talk about persons who know what they're doing. If you if you have a committee on health and you have someone who works at the Department of Health, surely their experience and training is worth something. And that person may have ideas on how to improve the healthcare system because they've dedicated their adult life to learning the healthcare system. See? But you're going to make it as hard as heck, as hard as you can for this person to run for an office where they may pass laws that will save someone's life. Because you still get used to it. I'm sorry?
The institution. But I could see both sides of the argument in that situation. However, I believe they had sufficient information to make a decision. If not then, at least before the legislature goes synodized, I think they need to address the issue.
Which
it
one?
Should be government, if the issue with the bill proposed by Maurice James.
Okay.
It can be revisited. And I'm saying maybe, because I also have some issues with it too. And I would say, get more information, but don't let it die. Bring it forward and head on, deal with it. And maybe compromise, because I have an issue too. In some cases, who's going to really police to see if the person isn't using their time on the job?
The supervisor, as they should, in any case. Whether wait, hold on one second for me. Why I'm saying that is that's what you're being paid to do. You're being paid to supervise, right?
Okay.
So at any rate, you still have to supervise the employee, or you as a supervisor is not doing your job.
I agree. But you really, it involves policing the person. But I'm thinking there could be a compromise in this issue. Because really, in today's day, in the digital era, you could time, if it's, you take a leave to go to a radio show, uh, if it's a paid show, if you're doing a radio ad, you could still be on the job doing it. It doesn't interfere with you being on the job. You could, like I said, campaign on the weekends. People use the social media now. It's not campaigning like in the good old days.
No.
It's a different type of campaigning.
Listen, I could tell you that listen, right now, people don't want nobody they don't know coming to their door mouth.
Right. That's a
Okay.
message for your safety.
And that is this, yeah, that is the society that we have become. I don't want nobody I don't know coming to my house. I don't know what you're dealing with. We have a lot of single mothers here with children. You have elderly persons. They don't want you coming to their house. I am telling you, if they don't know you, and it's a safety issue. So my thing is that, like you said, we all know, you may ride around with a truck or something like that, but if you go to a job, you have tasks to do. And so, like you said earlier, and I agree with this, if you have to do something during the day, you have your time that you could take off. I think that's fair. But I also feel that there's a distrust on one hand of the same people you say that you want to represent. You don't trust them to do what you're doing, to not do what you're doing, right? And you also don't trust the managers to manage. If you're accustomed to do 10 things, whatever it is, a day during a work day, and then all of a sudden you sign up and you're running and you can't do 6, right? Then the manager has to step in because now you are not pulling your load, but we're paying you. But I would think in the opposite direction, that if you know you have a bullseye on you, that you are going to make sure that you there at 5 to 8 and you leave 5 after 5.
Exactly. I agree with you.
Yes.
Because you the microscope won't be on you.
Exactly. And I think
so you
that
gotta walk a tight rope.
Yes.
Your political opponent will make one slip, they're gonna use it against you.
That's right. That's right.
At the same time, too, this is what I'm saying. Maybe a compromise. Maybe not for the extent of what is being proposed. That's how I'm looking at it, just a shorter time. But I don't think it's necessary to disregard this matter. Now it is too late because you can't impact this election cycle.
Right.
However, I don't think it should be left hanging.
No,
before the next election cycle.
Let me tell you, it is difficult to sue the government. It is costly, and it is also time consuming. Okay? But I think that this here should be settled by the courts. There's nothing else that makes you leave your job. And I think it's unconstitutional because everyone has a right to run, and no one should be penalized for this. And it makes me
discriminatory.
Yeah. And
the same thing like the double dipping. It's discriminatory.
Yeah.
Because you're putting the senators in a class,
a
special class, privileged group of people, making it like they're above the law. Everybody else has to adhere to this law so that you don't jeopardize the GRS.
Yeah.
But here you can receive a full salary and at the same time get an annuity check. Don't make it something unfair about that. But like I said, you willing to confront these issues without fear of losing support. And that's what they need to do. Don't worry about whether they're going to pass your election or not. Take a position.
You got to. And let me say this too. The reason why I said that it would lose in court is because every single barrier that had been placed on women and persons of color, has been overturned once it got to the Supreme Court.
Well, I was somewhere with perspective anyway. I don't want to take up more of the time. I like listening to what you have to offer. And again, best wishes. Thank you.
Listen, I appreciate you more than you know. Thank you so much for listening. But I did promise that I was going to bring these things up. I was going to bring these things up yesterday, and they're going to. I think that we're going to get a really good look at it, especially with the changes coming with the midterm elections. I think it's going to be a whole new ball game, and I think that we will have the friendliest audience that we've had, because remember, we're not saying gimme gimme, we're saying gimme what's mine, and there's a world of difference between that. And this is how it's done. You have to have legislation and vetted legislation to get things done, and that's what I've done. So even in advance of the election, I'm letting people know this is my legislative agenda. It's not a platform. A platform is child's play. If you are going, if you are, no, I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just saying this is my opinion about platforms. All you're doing is you're agreeing with the public about what the issues are. You hate WAPA, I hate WAPA. You free the hospital, I freed it more. But this is the work. This is the work.
It's in the same time repeated over and over. Disregard the same thing. It's just who perform better at this? Like,
Yeah.
you're saying the same thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Be blessed.
You know? Yes, thank you for that caller. And I'm glad you brought up that issue, because you should ask anyone running for anything, any office, what are your plans to make it better? If they can't answer you, well, then you have a decision to make. Because, as I said a moment ago, this is the work. This is the work. And it's the work at the highest level to help the Virgin Islands. And the thing is that we need structural change. We complain about the prices, but the price has been the same and no one has been able to figure out how to fix it. Here's the fix. To make the simple argument of that you're charging me to send something from America to America. Are we not Americans? Other than when you need cannon fodder for your war? Are we not? You created these wonderful programs and you locked us out of it. To demonstrate that, it's what we need to have done. We need to demonstrate how the inequities have made it almost impossible for us to live in the Virgin Islands. If not now, when? If not now, when? Because there are more stressors at this point in time than we have ever had. Things are going around us that could devastate these islands. The blockade in Cuba, those are our neighbors. Venezuela, with the kidnapping of President Maduro. Remember, not too long ago, we were in business with Venezuela. So we tend to think, because we're on these little bits of land, that these things won't affect us. They will. They will. So anything that we need to deal with, we need to deal with it right now. Right now, we need to deal with it. We need to deal with our health care. We need to get that in those insurances and such. And that's what this does. We need to be able to work with our neighbors so that our cost of our quality of life, that's the word I'm looking for. Our quality of life does not diminish. We need it to go up, not go down. And this is the start. This is the start, you know. So, oh, cool, I got more time. If there's any, excuse me, anyone else wants to call before our hour is up, it's 773-0390, 773-0490. So if you have a question for me or you want to make a statement, do call, do call. And there's something else that I wish to let you know. With the marked divide between the Republicans and Democrats, as your representative, I will not be drawn into that. I will not be drawn into that. I will be all VI all the time. There is no advantage to getting into that nasty place where our people. I mean, when elephants fight, ants get trampled. Let's be serious about who we are and what our standing is. Getting involved in that fight doesn't help us. It will not help us. All it will do is when the tide turns, put a bullseye on us. We need to stay out of that. What we need to do is we need to stay focused on the Virgin Islands. That's what we have to do. If it's not going to protect the Virgin Islands, or if it's not going to be something to our advantage, count me out. I am a single-minded person. Anyone who knows me knows I'm extremely single-minded. And that's the only concerns I will have. How is this going to help the Virgin Islands? Now, I'm not saying I won't vote. That's part of the job. But I am not diving into the middle of no mess. Other bills come up, I'll support them according to how I see them working. But getting in that big fight, not me. It will not help the Virgin Islands in any way, shape, or form. So, so if you want to actually read the bills, I'll be posting them on my Facebook page. Uh, and the name of that page is Emmett Hansen for Congress. And I'll probably put it on my personal page as well. You'll be able to pick these things up shortly as I'm having my brochures printed. And I'm so glad to tell you that my campaign supplies are finally coming. This has been one of the most frustrating things I've ever had in my life. But we know how mail is coming here. So I know I'm not alone, so I won't cry about it too much, but it's very frustrating. So I will be here every Wednesday from 9 to 10, right here on WSTX. The soul of the, what does he use? The
Soul of the
pearl.
Caribbean.
The soul of the Caribbean. All right. I'm gonna duck out because, like I said, I have things coming in. So I'm gonna duck out a little early so I could go take care of that. And you'll be seeing my face all over. Yep. What I share with you today. Taking the Virgin Islands.